A new version of the FADEC software, B9.4.1, has been developed for the ERJ family. Based on the FADEC B9.4 software version, this new version contains a pack of modifications targeted to increase the reliability and safety for engine operation. Most of the improvements involved software modifications, with only minor hardware changes to the aircraft. In this video, we will focus on showing how the modifications will impact the aircraft's normal operation, comparing with the FADEC B8.0 version. Each engine is controlled by one of two FADECs that are named FADEC A and FADEC B. All the signals between each FADEC and its respective engine, between the FADECs and the airplane, are completely redundant and isolated. This allows either FADEC A or B to control the engine independently. The FADECs are interconnected by dedicated cross-channel data links. These buses are used to transmit engine data and FADEC status between the two FADECs. Each FADEC is connected to one of the two FADECs on the opposite engine via data bus. Across this bus, the FADECs communicate the information necessary to implement the fuel to increase thrust and control the reverse interlock and automatic takeoff thrust control system, ATTCS. Comparing with the FADEC previous version, the B9.4.1 will have a higher peak ITT capability. The ITT ramp-up is more rapid comparing with the FADEC B8.0 version. This is possible due to a higher N2 idle setting. The fuel flow after start will be approximately 500 to 600 pounds per hour. The idle will be stabilized approximately 70% of N2 after start. To get the idle stabilization, the compressor variable geometry angle reset was incorporated to lower the HCF response of the high-pressure compressor first stage blade. Occasionally, a FADEC may experience a brief electrical power interruption during operation. In the previous FADEC software version B8.0, during the reset of the microprocessor after a power interruption, the engine will experience a momentary loss of thrust control, approximately 20% in thrust. With the new FADEC software version B9.4.1, the loss of thrust control issue was eliminated after an electrical power interruption. Additionally, a CMC maintenance message will be set so that the FADEC can be investigated by maintenance personnel. In case of a fan shaft break, which occurs between the N1 fan and the low-pressure turbine, the FADEC B9.4.1 software will command an engine shutdown. This is to avoid a low-pressure turbine overspeed and further damage to the engine, which could occur if the engine was not shut down immediately. The FADEC logic detects a sheared N1 shaft and immediately shuts down the engine. The FADEC also inhibits the restarting of the affected engine, as well as disabling the auto shutdown feature for the shaft brake on the opposite engine. An uncommanded high-thrust event could occur in the unlikely scenario where the fuel pump and metering unit would fail in such a way that it would schedule more fuel than requested. In this scenario, the FPMU would provide more fuel than requested for the engine thrust condition, resulting in an uncommanded high-thrust event. To address this possible scenario, the new FADEC B9.4.1 logic protection removes the fuel flow feedback from the FADEC's internal control loop, and the engine response is slowed, protecting the engine against flameout. It also disables the start system due to the inability to get a prime fuel flow without a reliable fuel flow feedback signal. The pilot may attempt to restore the normal operation by initiating a FADEC reset. If IN1 levels persist after the opening of the control loop of the main metering valve, the FADEC will initiate an engine shutdown via the uncommanded high thrust protection logic. It will occur only if the following conditions are observed: aircraft on the ground, gear down and weight on wheels, airspeed less than 180 knots, altitude less than 15,000 feet, thrust lever angle of affected engine at idle, and the other engine is operative. Reduce N2 margin during takeoff can trigger the ICAS message ATTCS no margin, and this occurrence results in aborted takeoffs. This new FADEC feature introduces an optimized compressor variable geometry schedule to improve most N2 margin at takeoff. The software also implements improved engine health monitoring capability. The update of the compressor variable geometry schedule at cruise reduces fuel burn at high altitude climb condition. This will occur over 25,000 feet high. Those benefits are confirmed in altitude chamber tests, flight tests, as well as the fleet trend data monitoring. The ITT margins in this new FADEC version have been increased by 1.7 degrees Celsius, 35 degrees Fahrenheit. The aircraft must incorporate the -9 trim plug to achieve the ITT margin increase benefits. This new FADEC version maximizes the available N2 speed margin due to optimal compressor variable geometry schedules and reduces HP speed margin scatter. It also increases ITT and N2 margins and reduces the likelihood of ICAS triggered message E1, E2 ATTCS no margin that can lead to a rejected takeoff due to the inadequate margins. This software version has a feature to automatically reset and alternate the FADECs after an engine start. This feature contributes to minimizing the workload in the cabin in that it requires no more flight crew action as happens in the previous versions. However, as stated on the AFM procedures, the pilot must still manually alternate or reset the FADECs after an engine start, even when he or she checks that the alternate has been carried out automatically. In the previous FADEC software versions, ITT false exceedances could be enunciated due to the ITT REDLINE transitioning too quickly from the takeoff to climb mode. An additional buffer time of 5 seconds was added in the new FADEC B9.4.1 software version for transitioning from the takeoff ITT REDLINE to the climb REDLINE in order to avoid false ITT exceedance indications. The engine takeoff no data ICAS message appeared 30 seconds after the aircraft landing, causing an unnecessary flight crew action during landing and rollout. With the new FADEC software version B9.4.1, the message will now appear 120 seconds after landing, reducing the flight crew action during landing and rollout.